Miami
We
Dolphins
did.
falling 27-15. Tua only played about the first
Tua
quarter and
only
a half.
Tua played 25 of the 64 snaps.
8 of 14, 110 yards. Did have the really ugly interception, which is gonna get glossed over because head
Yeah.
his head decided to
See, I
exit
do have an opinion. I think that the ball was where he wanted to throw it, but
underthrown.
he just
It
threw
was
it so
severely.
late.
It was severely
He
underthrown.
he he threw it probably 15 yards. It was a very late throw.
Teddy Bridgewater came in, played pretty decent. 14-23, 193 and a touchdown. Also had the interception, which was a game stealing interception. The ground game looks a little.
Debatable.
Yes, it was debatable because you should just show me that video. It's too close to tell.
I believe it warrants it. I'm not saying that it should have been overturned. I'm saying it should have warranted a longer review. And you're talking about at that point it was a 2 point game.
Yeah,
Like
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe his ground, maybe it doesn't. But I mean that's what ended up happening. The ground game looked a little better. Raheem Mostert, 69 yards. Teddy Bridgewater had 11 yards on the ground on one run. Chase Edmonds again is just nothing in the ground game whatsoever. 6 yards on the ground. He did have the one touchdown for the Dolphins and had two catches for 14 yards. Tyreek Hill lived up to the talk from
he
before the
did.
game. 10 catches, 160 yards. And then Trent Sherfield, 4 catches, 55 yards. I was pointing that out during the game that there is that connection that he has with Teddy Bridgewater, both
Yeah.
being backups. That it makes sense that they have that chemistry. Jalen Waddle, you could tell he wasn't 100%. He was nursing the groin injury, same thing as Xavier Howard. Jalen Waddle, 2 catches, 39 yards. Gesicki's not going to be part of this team next year. When are you going to get that through your head?
Gesicki played 25 snaps of the 64.
That's awful.
I mean, well, he didn't do it really anything when Teddy came in. He played pretty much the same amount of snaps that Tua did. He
He's
played 28
Yeah.
out
So
of
he played the
64.
same amount of snaps as somebody who got. I mean, yes, it's the quarterback, but he said play the same amount of snaps as somebody that only played the first quarter and a half. Mike
But
Gesicki.
you got to think that changes the game
Mike
plan.
Gesicki has zero spot on this team, and he's going to be off this team next year.
Uh,
There's nothing he. What have you seen from him except for that athletic touchdown? Which okay, awesome, great, love it. What have you seen from him that has made you think he's a Dolphins player this time next year?
it's just the difference in game. You can't have your entire team just be
Why
fast.
not?
It
Two catches,
it
23 yards.
it
Oh, he's
doesn't.
impacting the game.
He hasn't had an impact besides the Baltimore game. I'll give you that.
And that was only an impact because of a touchdown. It wasn't impact because of his actual play.
He had 6 catches for 74 yards and a touchdown. It wasn't just the one play.
He, as a whole, he has been very kind of like we were talking about Jalen Phillips. He's been very irrelevant. He hasn't gotten off to a good start of the season. We were already looking to trade him before the season started, and then he comes in the season
They weren't looking to trade
has
him.
one catch. Yes, they were had one catch. They're lying. They had one catch against the Patriots. Had what 1 or 2 catches last week against the Bills.
3 catches for I believe it was like 20-something yards.
2 catches yesterday. He has no role on this team. Yes, you need somebody who's a little bigger body and all. He's big. Doesn't have a single broken tackle in his NFL career. We saw him get manhandled yesterday with one of his catches. Yes, I don't want to hear it. It was a bad throw. It was a bad throw. I don't care. He got manhandled by an undersized corner.
He came down and was immediately hit. He had
time. He had time.
He did
yes, he
not.
did. Yes, he did.
It's not like he went to go try and juke him or stiff arm him. He had no time once he no.
He had about like
Dude,
3/4 of a second to a second.
No,
yes, he did.
You're lying to yourself.
No.
Like no, I agree.
You're lying to yourself. You think he has a role on this team.
I agree with you that he can't break a tackle. But the fact that you're blaming him for not getting that first down when he could have easily just been hit in the chest, wide open, no one within 7 yards, but instead he has to go up and climb the ladder.
Any other top tier tight end catches that ball, all things considered, same spot. Every other top tier tight end makes that catch and gets the first down. Kelsey does that. Goddard does that. Ertz does that.
I don't think so.
Mike Gesicki is not a top tier tight end. He's not a B tier tight end. He's looking like a C tier tight end.
You saw Kelsey get manhandled by Derwin James. He's
one of the best safeties in the league.
He's still undersized.
He's one of the best safeties in the league.
So you're saying who's the one that made the tackle on him? I believe it was Von Bell. He's one of the best.
I think it was last name was Milton.
No,
it wasn't Von Bell. I know it was one of their corners.
No, I believe it was Von Bell
No,
that
because I know
that held
I
the
know it was
tackle.
one of their corners. Because
Von
I
Bell was all over the field yesterday.
just think he does not have a role in this team. But hopefully somebody who does have a role in this team, and we'll obviously talk most about it, is Tua. Um, he got cleared from the hospital yesterday. He they said I don't know if this ended up happening, but they said yesterday he was going to fly home with the team. I don't know if that actually ended up happening or
He
not.
did fly home with the team. He had a neck brace on when he flew back.
Yeah,
He's scheduled for an MRI today. Still waiting to see if he had a regular brain MRI or if he had a DTI, which is pretty much an enhanced version of a brain MRI.
such a nerd.
It's my job.
I know it's your job.
Um, and that hopefully it'll tell us that everything's still negative and that would be positive news. Uh, and I mean, it's already positive news that he's up and roaming around like he is. He was smiling, greeting teammates coming out of the locker room right after the game.
He went back to the stadium?
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
We don't we so there's obviously no timetable yet. Now everybody is going to assume he's going to miss the Jets game, and I think nobody would bat an eye about him missing the Jets game. Like
Nobody wants him to play.
Yeah.
I think
Nobody
I've
wants
seen
him to be there
maybe
next
I've
week.
seen maybe like I want him to be cleared to be able to play, but I want them to hold him back and be like, look, just take another week. We can get by the Jets with Teddy, but we need you for the Vikings.
Yeah, and with already going into like we can argue whether what the head injury was before against the Bills. I believe the story. I believe the story that it was the back. Now sitting here today, I'm just gonna put my hands up in the air and say I don't know. I was talking with Audio, my boss, earlier, and he was all adamant. He's like, "Oh, somebody's getting in trouble. Somebody's this." I'm like, "Look, he got cleared by team doctors. He got cleared by the chief medical examiner by the NFL.
Mhm.
Got cleared the day up. Like, how many people need to
He
clear him before you believe
he
he's
was
cleared?"
because of the investigation. He had to be cleared every single day.
Yes.
So he was pretty much in concussion protocol the entire time without being in a concussion protocol.
Yeah.
He was being cleared every single day and cleared every single day. Now, is a concussion protocol perfect? That's the question.
It can't be.
Could a mild concussion be there and they
Yeah.
not catch it? I think that's what happened. Because I mean, you did see him shake his head. Obviously, I'm still blaming the whole wobbling thing on his back because we did talk about this as well, that there's a figure skater that had a similar injury,
Yeah.
and she said that can easily happen, and that is one of the symptoms. So maybe he did have a concussion, but he cleared all the protocols. Are the protocols, are they actually good?
And plus, concussions are something that it's not like an ACL injury or an Achilles injury where you look at it, you can diagnose it, you can put together a timetable. Like it's the brain.
Yeah.
Like everybody's brain heals differently. Every brain injury is different, and it's so you can't actually really do anything other than just sit and do nothing. So, case to case is so different. It could very well could have been a mild concussion against the Bills, and was clear enough, and I'm sure he wants to get back on the field, so he's trying his best to present himself in a way to get back on the field. So I don't. It's hard to attach blame to anybody in this situation, which is such a freak incident. The guy who tackles him last night, 364 pounds. Tua, I don't know exactly what he weighs off the top of my head, but I'm going to assume he's no more than 220 pounds. He's a little dude. And I know last night you were going on and on about how dirty he was.
I was
tackle.
not going on and on
Yes,
about how dirty it was.
You, Mr. Revisionist
on
history.
And on and on.
Yes, you were.
I was not going on and on. I said I didn't like how he was thrown. I said that.
Kyle, back me up.
I said I did not like how he was thrown.
You called it dirty. You called it dirty.
I said how he was thrown back was dirty, and then you guys kept trying to argue it to me. You tried to argue it. You were going on and on about how it was not.
Yeah, in response to you.
And what? So if I say one thing and you continue to, and I'm just backing my point, that's me going on and on, or is that you going on and on?
No, it's you going on and on.
That's you going on and on. So, anyways,
it was not dirty.
It could. Anyways,
it was not dirty.
Would you be quiet?
Tua is a little human being.
He's not that little.
You're playing football.
So, anyways,
364 pounds to Tua, that's little.
So, anyways, as I'm trying to say, so you have on the Dolphins roster, Keelan Carter's been out since like the beginning of week 1 with a concussion. So it's not like they're, I mean, given it's, starting quarterback versus fourth string tight end.
Yeah.
But whatever. Threw me off.
I mean, I'm not wrong.
You threw me off. Good special teamer, bad tight end.
If you're labeled as a good special teamer, you're not a good football player. I'm sorry.
I mean, you have to be good at something to be on the football team. So anyway, so he's been out since week 1. T. Higgins had a concussion in week 1 around the same time Keelan Carter did. He came back the next week.
Yeah.
I mean, given he also got smoked in week 2 and he somehow stayed in that game. So are the concussion protocols, perfect? Definitely not.
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
I believe you made the point to me yesterday is that we are with the brain now, we know the brain now as well as we did the heart in the 60s. Like, we didn't know anything about the heart in the 60s.
I wish I said that because that would have sounded really smart. That was definitely not me.
Oh, well, then,
I'll take the credit. Well, I guess I can't anymore.
Credit taken back. But then you also have, you have people like Wes Walker who, overcome concussions after a week in their career. And they just, have 7 concussions in a year span. And then you have Javid Best, who we all know that sad story. He was one of the best running backs in the league, definitely for my fantasy team. Had a concussion, was expected to come back the following week and never came back at all. He ended up he did make the best out of it. He ended up trying out for the Olympics, and I believe it was a 100-meter dash. But, he never played another down of football again.
It is sad how we immediately associate injuries with fantasy relevance. Like, immediately, because it's getting to the point where fantasy football has so integrated itself into, like, all football fans that every little thing that happens, that was a catch for 7 yards, 1.7. That was a 16-yard touchdown. That's 8.6. Like, it's just so integrated in the mind that horrific injury. Oh, there goes my fantasy season. So you go on every Instagram comment, you see all retweets. Oh, my fantasy team. Oh, this. Like, main in my Publix chat, he's like, oh, because he's got Herbert and he's got Tua. And he has Tyreek Hill. Obviously, Tyreek Hill ended up still having a good game, but
I have Herbert and Tua in our league.
Yeah. So,
I started Herbert.
Okay.
But what was it? With Tua, I was trying to trade him for Gabe Davis.
Yeah.
Like, literally during the game, almost actually traded for him. But that didn't really even hit me until after the game, because obviously I'm a Dolphin fan first. And I'm like, well, shit.
Except for when it's T. Higgins and Joe Mixon getting touchdowns.
So I literally have in between my 3 leagues, I have Joe Burrow in 2, I have T. Higgins and Joe Mixon in 1, I have Hayden Hurst in 1. So I pretty much have that.
Yeah, Hayden Hurst.
He's backing up George Kittle.
Neither are really good options, I guess.
Yeah, so it's the Dynasty League, and so there wasn't any good options. I only I drafted Kittle
deep benches, really deep benches,
and Uzama, and Uzama hasn't really done anything, so I dropped him for Hurst. So I pretty much have everybody but Boyd and.
So you were rooting for the Bengals last night. So you're saying.
I was not.
He was celebrating when Tua got hurt. All right.
Screw you. I have 2 in 2 leagues.
So, see, there you go. You're associating again, just how closely associated fantasy football is.
Hey, I did say, and T. Higgins, don't get me wrong on this. I did not mean any harm to you.
Yeah, T. Higgins, you're watching this. Him and the 16 other people.
When T. Higgins caught the ball, I'm like, break his knee.
You said that?
You didn't hear me say that?
No.
When he got tackled out of bounds and then he ended up sliding.
I thought you were talking about the touchdown. Yeah, I did hear
sliding into the bench.
I did.
And then Kyle's like, oh, shit, did he tear his ACL? And I'm like, I don't know.
No, he just slid into like the cooler.
He slid really awkwardly too. And I'm like, I didn't actually mean it, guys.
I mean, to himself almost looked like he had a pretty bad tackle.
That was
he thankfully it got more swiped than landed on, and he ended up in an awkward crisscross.
Sitting if his left foot was still planted, that's
yeah. And on the way car ride home, I was talking about it's crazy how the injury that actually happened to him is not as bad as what that could have been. Just simply falling on the dude's leg versus he's not moving, he's seizing up, he has to get carted off, taken to a hospital. that's somehow not as bad as landing on his ankle.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
I mean, we don't know. We literally have zero idea. There's no timetable yet at all. I mean, obviously we don't want this, but there is a chance he could be cleared by next week for the Jets game.
Yeah.
We don't think that's a good idea no matter what, even though it is a little bit of a lengthy period of time in between. We'd like to see Teddy go out there because Teddy played good, like 14 to 23, 193, had the 60-yard bomb to Tyreek. He played good, except for
besides
a few
that
moments.
the last throw, I would say when the interception or lack thereof,
it was an interception, so
it counted in the books.
Yeah,
maybe not in my heart, but it counted in the books as an interception. That mean that was just a terrible throw. And who was it that was trying to blame it on Gesicki?
Kyle.
Was it Kyle?
It was it was Kyle.
It was either Kyle or Adam.
No, it was Kyle.
And I'm like, bro, what? That ball was like 10 feet behind him.
It was miscommunication and then a bad throw as well.
But that's what happens. Like we were also talking about, that's why he had a good connection with Trent Sherfield, because he plays with the twos.
Yeah.
So,
and if Tua ends up playing the rest of that game, like if that injury never happens,
I think
there's a very good chance we're 4-0 right now. Looking over the Bengals, like Joe Burrow had a good game, 20 of 31, 287, 2 touchdowns, mixing 61 yards and a touchdown on the ground game. T. Higgins was definitely their best receiver, 7 catches, 124 and a touchdown. Jamar Chase, most of his yards came in the fourth quarter, 4 catches for 81. So there wasn't really anything spectacular about what the Bengals did. They just kind of got fortunate.
Is that Chase actually played 11 more snaps than T. Higgins did. T. Higgins was only on the field for 49 of the 64 snaps.
T. Higgins had a pretty good start of the season and may have even overpassed Jamar last night, because I think they were within 30 yards of each other going into the game last night. So he might actually be ahead of
I think
Jamar
T. Higgins is actually, he could quite possibly be a better fantasy option than Jamar Chase. And that is really
maybe,
really
but we'll get more into that when we talk fantasy. We'll talk fantasy a little bit at the end. But just how so going into the game, obviously 3-0. 4 games, 3-1. We don't know how long Tua is going to be out for. Just looking at it objectively over the long haul of the season, best case scenario, Tua is back by the Vikings game, and he's better than obviously what we saw from him last night. It's still a very good start of the season. It's still very promising for the rest of the year. And even if Teddy has to play for a couple of games, how Teddy played last night, like I know immediately when Tua goes down and Teddy's warming up, or like bringing Skyler.
Yeah.
However,
Skyler will have the pop,
but he's not played against actually starting defenses. He's playing against the guys who are getting cut. He's playing against guys that are not on rosters right now. And hey, Skyler still had a great preseason, and I hope he develops probably into the backup next season. But Teddy, you got to start the vet. You got to start the guy who, he went 6-0 as a backup for the Saints when Drew Brees went down. He's been serviceable his entire career, if nothing else. And with the weapons he has around him, that's kind of what we're saying about a lot of people have been saying about Tua is like, Tua doesn't have to be the best, but just get the ball into your playmakers' hands and you can have success. Definitely going to the Jets game next week, I expect Teddy to be enough. Then looking beyond that, you have the Vikings, you have the Steelers. And I like the Vikings, but even with Teddy, I still favor us probably over the Vikings. And same thing with the Steelers. So Tua just can kind of take however long he needs to. And the likelihood is we could be a 4-1, 5-1, 6-1, maybe 5-2 worst case scenario team whenever Tua ends up coming back, if it is a longer term injury. So really, it's not there. There's no need to panic right now.
Yeah, and I'm gonna agree with you. I think the earliest we really need him back would be week 8 against the Lions, because the Lions have they have the most touchdowns in the league right now.
They do, but they might be without DeAndre Swift still then.
Yeah,
because it's high end could be six weeks.
But I mean, Jamal Williams is more than serviceable as their backup.
No, he is.
And the Dolphins have been giving up a lot of yards. Between in short yard situations, they're really good. But other than that, I mean, they've just been pretty just like, oh, here's take some yards. Like, but that's always been even since 2020 when Brian Flores the tank for 2 a year. Or that's 2019, but just bend, don't break. That's pretty much been their entire thing. And it's worked for the first 4 weeks. I mean, we were banged up yesterday. I mean, no excuses, but
Yeah, all of our good players pretty much were hurt going into yesterday.
I mean, we're pretty much without the whole second half. We were without Byron Jones and Xavier Howard. I mean, we've been without Byron Jones for the first 4 games. He was seen warming up with Hunter Long prior to the game, so it looks like he may be able to come back off the PUP next week. Hopefully,
Yeah,
because that would be a really good help. That way, we don't have to rely so much on X, and he has a groin injury that he's
Kadir
nursing.
Kahu, like he's very patchy. Like he got burned by Jamar on the like not the flea flicker, but the backwards pass to Tyler Boyd,
Yeah,
like, over the top, and also on the
Keon
long,
Crosson's been burned
also
so
on
many times.
the long pass to Jamar Chase to set them up, goal to go, where Hayden Hurst eventually gets the score there.
Yeah,
You can't rely on those guys. Igbo's
yeah.
been a healthy scratch just because of how bad he is. You
The lack
have
of instincts is
Keon Crossan, who again not good special teamer. Kadir Kahu had a few good moments in the first few games, but I mean, you're not gonna be going against Joe Flacco next week. You're gonna be going against Zach Wilson, and obviously we have our reservations about Zach Wilson, but Zach Wilson can sling it. We see him at his best, what he can do. So X being healthy is imperative, and Byron coming back is imperative.
because I mean, let's not discount the receivers. I mean, Garrett Wilson is a star. Elijah Moore is a really good safety blanket. And I mean, they do have good weapons. I mean, they have Brees Hall is starting to emerge out of the backfield. I know we're starting to do a preview for next week already, but the Jets team is we'll know more after this week when they play, but I don't think that they're going to be as bad as last year. I think they're going to be better. I think Teddy can still beat them, obviously,
Yeah,
uh,
definitely
but
should be able to beat the Jets.
because
It doesn't matter that's in New
their
York. Like
defense is not good enough. I
their
mean,
team isn't good enough.
Sauce Gardner is not gonna guard Tyreek or Waddle,
The
and
Jets are a bottom three team in the league.
yeah,
Simply put, they're not good. They're not a threat. And I mean, obviously, imagine they end up imagine we roll that next week and get absolutely rolled by the Jets. Oh, Marcelo, Joe would just eat us alive. How did we end up being friends with Jets fans?
I don't know, Brandon too.
I forget, man. Well, Brandon's kind of like just the Trinity.
Yeah,
The Bills, the Giants, and the Jets.
he's just a New York fan.
Yeah. So, and they do have to play the Steelers this week, and I don't expect them to handle that well. But just wrapping up the Dolphins, obviously hope the best for Tua. Really sad to see. Really, again, just absolutely sucked the life out of the room
Dude,
yesterday.
watching
That game was so fun, even though we were losing still at that point. It was so fun watching that game yesterday, and then just
how many times did I just say I think I'm going to be sick? Like
at least 17.
at
Should have been a
least
drinking game. That should have been a drinking game, and how many times they slow mo zoomed in on Tua, like throwing up gang signs, as people in our group chat love to say.
The fencing position.
Yeah. Obviously hope the best for him, and it's unfortunate to see the Dolphins fall to 3-1, but it happens.
We're still 3-1. I mean,
worst places to be.
We still have
Still
the
be top
best
of the
record.
division.
We still have the best record in the AFCs. So
Even if the Bills win this week, I still think we'll be top of the AFC since we have 2 division wins.
we have 2 division wins and a win over the Bills.
Yeah.
So
we have that. Going to the Jets next week, we'll see how that goes.